Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be drawing the bald eagle. I actually had a friend that I write letters with recommend that I draw the bald eagle for Independence Day coming up in a week or two. And we're going to draw it flying in front of an American flag, and it's going to be cool. Hope you guys have fun. Let's get started. Alright, so this is what it's going to look like when we are all finished. We're going to try to make it look kind of 3D with the bald eagle, how it's the flag's kind of rippling in the wind. I'll show you some cool techniques for the stars and the stripes, and we are ready to get started. So I'm going to set this off to one side. Let's do this. I'm going to start with our bald eagle's head. I'm going to do a curved line that comes up and back down. Then I'm going to make that line on the right side come down a little bit farther. Then over here on the left side, I'm going to come almost straight down and then curve back out. And then I'm going to do his cheek. I'm going to curve out and then down. And then he's going to have a little feather line, like kind of going up into his beak. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to this right side, and I'm going to draw a curved line that comes down, in, and back out. And then I'm going to curve up, and then make that come to a point, and curve back down. Then I'm going to bring it over, but instead of just connecting it to this line, I'm going to come up and then connect, just like a little curve up and down. So that is the general shape of our bald eagle's head. Now I'm going to come around the outside of his head and do like the rest of the little feather lines for his white head. So I'm going to start about right where we started making the line, continue down farther, and I'm just going to draw a diagonal line that comes out and a little bit down. And then I'm going to do kind of the same thing over here. I'm going to do a line that comes out, but I'm going to follow this line that we did for his cheek with a little zigzag line. I'm going to keep going, but I'm not going to follow this part. I'm going to come down, and then I'm just going to continue this zigzag line all the way until we meet this line over here. Alright, now we are ready to start drawing his body. Now he's facing us, flying, almost it looks like he's flying right towards us. So I'm going to draw his body kind of around his head. So I'm going to start right here on the left side. This is just going to be a guideline. I'm just going to draw a big oval curve. And then down here I'm going to kind of maybe come to a little point. Nothing exaggerated, just like a little bump out. And I'm going to come back up and curve around. I'm just going to, it's almost, if you wanted to make it simple, you could literally just draw a circle around his head. For the top of his back, I'm going to make it a little bit more flat and straight. And that is our line for our bald eagle's body. Now, this is kind of the tricky part, but we're going to make it work. I'm going to go step by step so it's not super tricky. We're going to do his wings. So his wings are at a cool angle where they're kind of coming up and down. If you look at this picture, the wing goes up and then it meets, and then it kind of goes back down, almost like he's gliding or maybe just taking off or something. So I'm going to start right here for this part on this part of his body. I'm going to do a big curve that goes out and up. And then I'm going to go at another angle. It's almost like a perfect square if you look at it sideways. I'm going to come diagonally down, and I'm going to go all the way to, not all the way to the end, but pretty close. And I'm going to curve back for one feather. And then for this feather, I am going to go as far as we can towards the paper. And bring it back. And then another really long feather. Bring it back. I'm just going to repeat that step a few more times for the feathers along his wing. And you notice I got long and then a little bit shorter. Then I'm going to bring this last one into a curve, just like a little, like a squashed S almost. Now I'm going to come over here a little bit farther down from where we started the wing, and I'm going to do a few little bumpy line feathers, and they're going to come and connect into that wing. Now I'm going to come up above where we started with this line, and I'm going to do another line that kind of copies it, goes up and repeats the same line. I'm going to kind of join into this line as I go down. Now we're going to work on his other wing. So I'm going to start here for his body at the same place we did for the other one. And I'm going to come down a little bit. This one's going to be a little bit different than the right wing. And I'm going to go up. And I'm going to kind of curve down a little bit. Right there. And then I'm going to bring that curve down again. Like we did for the other side. But it's coming at a little bit more drastic angle. A little bit straighter down. Bring it all the way down to about right there. And then I'm going to bump out. And then I'm going to come right before we bumped out, and I'm going to do a feather that comes down. And then back up. And then down and out this way. And then back up. And I'm going to do the same thing we did for the other side, where they start long, then get a little bit shorter as they go in. Then I'm going to do the same thing I did for this side, where I come down about right here. I'm going to do those little bumps for the feathers. But I'm going to come down and I'm going to do one big one to curve into that. And then I'm going to repeat this line on the outside of the wing on this side, where I'm going to follow that line all the way down, except for this side. I'm going to bring it all the way down and then connect into this line, and it's going to make a whole new feather, just like that. Pretty cool. Now we're going to work on his tail. His tail is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to start on the left, kind of the left bottom side of his body. I'm just going to do a short line out. It's kind of behind him, so you're not going to be able to see the whole thing. And then I'm going to do another line over here, but I'm going to come further out and a little bit longer. Now I'm going to do two quick little guidelines for his feet down by this little bump we did, one on either side of it. I'm going to do a line that comes down and then curves back up into his body. And then one more on this side, curve down, back up into his body. Now I'm going to connect this line to this line with a few bumpy feathers, but I'm going to go into the feet and imagine it going through the feet and continue it on the other side. Alright, so that is our basic outline for our bald eagle. Now we're going to start working on a little bit more of the details. I'm going to come in to his face and we're going to start drawing his beak. So if you look where this little point comes in, I'm going to start at the point and just kind of imagine a line going directly to the left. I'm going to make a little point right there. You may not be able to see it on the camera, but there's a little point a little bit to the left of this line, and that's just a guideline. And then I'm going to go straight up from that about that much. So it's almost as if this line, we're lining up this point and this line. So this line comes up and this meets it right there. Those are just little guide points for our beak. So I'm going to start at that point up there and do a line that curves out and down into that first point. The beak is at a kind of tricky angle because he's almost facing towards us. I'm going to show you guys how to make it work. I'm going to make that line up there come a little bit more to the left. Then I'm going to go down and then bring it out. Then I'm going to bring it kind of back in and then do one more little bump down kind of towards this spike. And then I'm going to curve back and then shoot down into that line. Just like that. So that's kind of the general outline of his beak. Now we're going to work on his eyes. His eyes are going to be kind of intense bald eagle eyes. So I'm going to start over on this side that we did for his cheek. And I'm going to draw a curved line down and then into his beak. Now I'm going to come over here to this corner on his beak and draw a line up. And then it's going to go down all the way, almost touching this side, but not quite touching. Then I'm going to come back to where we started with that and do a line that curves up and then follows this line down and connects it to a point. Now I'm going to draw his eye. I'm just going to do, I'm not going to do a full circle, but almost a full circle that starts at his eyelid. It's going to come down and then back into his eyelid. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the left side and bump down and into his eye. This one's going to be a little bit closer to his beak. And then you can do a little bit, another line, kind of like this one we did on this side, where it just kind of comes down and into his eye and out. Oops. Alright, he looks pretty cool so far. Now I'm going to start working on his tail feathers, making them look a little bit more realistic. So we did all those little bumpy feathers. I'm going to go to where each bump goes into a point, and I'm going to draw a line that goes up into his body. Shouldn't be very many. See, that looks pretty cool. That makes it look like he's got actual feathers in his tail. Now, this part is going to really change the look of our bald eagle. I'm going to start working on his wings and making the feathers look like each one is individual. That might sound like it's going to be a little tricky, but I'm going to take it step by step. I'm going to start here, kind of in the middle of this line and his body and his upper wing. I'm going to start at his body, and I'm just going to do a line that comes out, and it's going to come all the way to about right here. Just like that. And then I'm going to make that line kind of curve up a little bit, and then it's going to come all the way back to his body. So just kind of like that little shape. And then I'm going to come right here to where we started the little line up. And I'm going to do a line that comes down and over, and then it's going to curve all the way down and connect into this feather. Then I'm going to do one more line that starts at the point. Is going to kind of follow that same line, but then connect into it. Okay, I'm going to kind of do the same
kind of the same thing for the other side. The other wing is not exactly the same as this wing, so it's going to be a little bit different. But we're going to start with just a line at his body, and we're just going to kind of go up into the upper wing. And then I'm going to come down a little bit further, and this one's going to come a little bit longer. It's going to come out, and then I'm going to do a little zigzag line into the upper wing. And then I'm going to start right on the zigzag line and do one more that's going to come out like this and connect into the upper wing on this side. I'm going to draw a little feather inside, and then a big feather line, like guideline, that's going to come up from the bottom of his wing to the top of the wing frame. And then if you look at either side, there's these long feathers that come down. I'm going to do this guideline on this side, where it's going to start at this big feather and kind of come up into the upper wing. And then on both sides, I'm just going to go to the point of each of those feather lines and follow whatever feather line is there all the way up to the wing frame. That adds a nice effect. We're going to do the same thing on this side. But there's going to be, more this wing is exposed than this side, so we're going to have a lot of little feathers over here. So I'm going to start right here where the big feather ends. And I'm going to do another one of those lines. And then I'm just going to do a bunch of small feather lines up from the bottom to the top. And then I'm going to do those individual wing lines where we start at the corner of the feather and we bring it up into the top of the wing. And then the last major thing I'm going to do for the detail of the wings is do the same thing we did for the tail, where I'm going to go to each little intersection of feather and just draw a line that goes up to the top of the wing frame. I'm going to do the same thing for this side. Just like that. Alright, our bald eagles is looking really cool, but we need to do a few more things before we can start doing the flag and coloring. I'm going to add a little bit more detail to his face. I'm going to do a line, or a circle, inside of the bigger circle in each of his eyes. And then I'm going to color in the big circle, but leave the little circle white. Alright, now I'm going to go to his beak and see this little sideways V we did right in the middle of these other two lines. I'm going to draw a line from the bottom, the point of his beak that's going to curve almost touching that the inside of the V, but not quite. So I'm going to curve out of the point and then almost touching the V, but not quite. And then I'm going to do a line that kind of follows this V shape with the two lines right on the inside. So I'm going to come down and over, and then back out, and then back down. Then we can draw his little nostril inside of that line, just one little dot. And then to finish his beak, we can do a line that comes down the middle of the front. That kind of makes it look like he's really just looking right at us. Alright, now we can do a few lines for his feet. Nothing major because they're kind of curled up behind him, but I'm just going to do 3 lines that come up on each foot. It kind of looks like cats or dogs' feet right now, but once we color it, it's not going to look like that. Okay, so we are ready to start coloring. So I'm going to get the colors you need, and I'll let you know. I'll be right back. Alright, so the colors we're going to be needing today are, first of all, a red and blue. A red, and like a bright red, and then dark blue. That's going to be for the flag. So we're going to put those off to the side for later. Now what I'm going to use for the eagle are, we're going to have a black, a dark brown, a light brown, a gold, an orange, and a white. The white is just for shading, but it does add a really nice effect to the colors when we blend it together. Alright, so I'm going to put all of these colors off to the side, except for my dark brown. So I'm going to start with the wings. I'm going to go to each of these small feathers on the line and start dark, and then fade out as I go to the right. Do the same thing for this one. I'm just going to continue that down the wing. When you fade out and then start dark again on the next feather, it really adds a nice overlapping effect. And when I get to this last big one, I'm going to stop before I do the small ones on the left side. That was just my very loud pencil sharpener. Okay, and then after you finish those big feathers, you can just kind of touch up with that dark brown, just kind of fill in spots that you might have missed. Then I'm going to come to this side and do the same thing, except I'm going to be doing fading out to the left. I'm going to start dark on the right side of each feather, and then fade out to the left. Do the same thing for these, and all the way down the wing. And just like I did on the left side, I'm going to stop at the last big feather, and I'm not going to do the small feathers quite yet. You can go and touch up. Alright, now I'm going to take that same dark brown, and I'm going to do this stripe, this shape right above the feathers we just did, and I'm going to push down fairly hard so it's really smooth, just solid shape of color. I'm going to do the same thing for this little triangle on this side. There we go. Now for this part's going to be a little bit different. I am going to do this little shape. It's going to be different on this wing than it is on this wing. They're going to be different things because this wing, he's kind of turned this way. So this wing you can see more of than this wing. So I'm going to start on this little shape, and I'm going to start dark up at the top, and then kind of fade lighter, kind of like we did on these ones, but I'm going down. And then I'm going to do this shape over here. This is kind of the same part. I'm going to shade just a light layer in that little shape in there. And then I'm going to come to this side and just do this little triangle, solid dark, with our dark brown. And now on this shape right here that comes out, and then this one goes all the way down to the feather, and then this little shape, I'm just going to do a light layer of that dark brown. I'm shading very lightly. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. This one's a little bit bigger. Shading very lightly. And it looks a little rough. The coat looks a little rough right now, but once we go over with the white, it'll smooth everything out. And if you don't have a white, that's totally okay. Go all the way down. Even just like all the way down to the bottom of this feather. Now I'm going to come to this outside feather on each side, and I'm going to do dark at the bottom, and then kind of fade out as I get up. Just for the feather, not for the shape that continues above it. This one I'm going to do dark on the outside, and then fade out, and it'll kind of join with this one. Okay, now I'm going to put the dark brown off to the side for a minute, and I'm going to get my light brown, and on this outer wing frame, I'm going to start close to the feathers and push pretty hard, and then get lighter as I get towards the outside of the wing. So start dark down here and then fade out towards the top, and I'm going to do the same thing all the way down, that dark line, and then fading out lighter. I'm going to do the same thing on this right side. Start dark, and then fade out lighter. All the way down. Alright, now I'm going to get my dark brown again, and I'm going to come to these feathers. I'm going to draw a little guideline, just very lightly. I'm going to come down, just going through the feathers. I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to come back up into this feather. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing on this side. I'm going to come down and then back up into that section. And now I'm going to take my dark brown and I'm going to color very darkly on the underneath the line all the way across. And then afterwards we're going to fade it lighter, and it's going to really look cool. So I'll share with you guys a few fun facts about the bald eagle while I do this. First of all, bald eagles can live up to 70 years in the wild. They mate for life, which means once they choose a mate, they have the same mate throughout their whole lifetime. And also, at one time, bald eagles almost went extinct. There was a pesticide back in sometime in the 1900s called DDT, and it made the bald eagle's egg shells so thin that they broke very easily. So most of the babies didn't hatch. The numbers went down to only like 75 nesting pairs in the wild. But then after DDT was banned, they made like a crazy comeback, and now there's like thousands of nesting pairs in the wild. More than that, but these are a few fun facts. They normally like to nest really high in trees, and sometimes, most of the time where there's water nearby, because they will catch fish a lot of the time. Alright, once we're done with that dark layer, I'm going to sharpen my pencil with my very loud pencil sharpener. And then I'm going to go over these lines, and I'm going to do the same thing we did on this side for these smaller feathers. I'm going to start dark along the feather line, and then fade out as I go to the left. I'm going to do the same thing for each of the feathers all the way across. Alright, now I'm going to do the same thing for this side. That adds a really nice effect to those feathers. Alright, so our bald eagle is slowly taking shape. Now, this is the fun part, I think. I'm going to put the dark brown off to the side, and I'm going to get my white. And I'm going to go over the whole wing, like every inch of it, with my white. Alright, I had a little camera trouble there. It didn't catch the part where I faded the white, but that is all I did. If you don't have a white, you don't even have to do that. You can also use a yellow over the brown, looks good, or also just like a really light brown. So I went over with white, and now that we're done with that, I'm going to start working on the bald eagle's body. So the head is fairly simple because it's mostly white, but the body is going to match kind of the same colors as the wings. So I'm going to get my dark brown out again for like the 70th time. And I'm going to start around the head. I'm just going to do dark and then fading out light around the body, just kind of like we did for the wings. We're going to really make the white head pop out. So I started by just circling the whole head in the dark brown, and now I'm going to kind of fade out. But I'm also just going to fill the whole head in with a light layer of that dark brown. Now that may sound confusing, a light layer of dark brown, but you're just using the dark brown and not pressing very hard, just shading. Alright, now I'm going to do the same trick I did. Brace yourselves for my very loud pencil sharpener. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing we did for the wings, where I take my white, or whatever color you want to shade with, yellow, dark brown, light brown. Any light color that goes good with brown will work. I mean, obviously you don't want to use like a light green or light blue, but okay, that adds that nice smooth texture. Now I'm going to go down to my tail. I'm going to put the white off to the side, and I'm going to get my black. Whoopsies, I dropped my black. And I'm going to go down to the tail, and I'm going to do the same thing we did for these feathers, but with the black, where I start dark. You don't want to use too much black though, because it'll take away from the white. I start dark, and then I fade lighter as I get out. I'm going to do that for each feather, even the ones with the feet. Kind of go behind. The ones with the feet would have the most shadow because the feet are kind of shadowing them as well. Just like that. And I'm going to go back with my white. For this part, you probably don't want to use a yellow or any other color like that. White works best, but if you don't have a white, just skip it. Kind of makes that shadow pop out. And then I'm going to get my black, and I'm going to kind of do the same general thing for his eyes, like around his eyes. I'm just going to do a little shadow under his eyelid on both sides. Very, very detailed. You don't want to get in the eyes with this shadow. You want it to be right in there next to it. Okay, now I'm going to do a little shadow on the outside of this line. I'm almost just doing little hairlines. And in this little crack too. Just doing little hairlines for a little shadow around his headline. Just like that. Now I'm going to put my black off to the side for a minute, and I'm going to get my yellow. It's kind of like a goldish yellow. I'm going to go over the front part of the whole beak with that goldish yellow. And then I'm going to get my black again. And this part you want to be very careful. I'm literally just going to do a very thin line through that small shape. I didn't color it in, I just did a very light thin line. And then if you go back with your white over that thin line, it makes that whole shape look gray. Then you can go over with the black on that nostril again inside, just so you can see it a little bit better. And now for the beak, I'm going to do a little bit of shading with my orange on just on the few lines that we did in there. Just going to kind of trace over them and then do a little shadow underneath the beak. Just like that. Okay, we're almost done with the head. I'm going to get my black one more time, and I'm actually going to fill in the eyes where we filled in with the colored pencil. And this is really going to make them pop. Like that. And then you can kind of do some shadows here and there on the eyelids. And then kind of just throughout the rest of the head. Birds always have this little cheekbone that you can visibly see. Comes out from the eye and then goes into the beak. I've noticed that from studying them for a while. All birds have it. Some are more noticeable than others, but they all have it. Okay, and then whenever you're done with all those little shadows, we're just going to go in with our white and go over each one of those shadows. Be very careful with the ones by the eye, 'cause you don't want to go in the eye with the white or it'll kind of smear it out. But that just makes his head look very 3D and really cool. now for the last thing we're going to do for our bald eagle is take that yellow, the goldish yellow color, and we're going to fill in his feet. And then do the same thing we did for the beak. Get that orange and go over those lines with that orange. You can do a little bit of shading. And there we go. Okay, so now we are ready to start working on the flag. We finished our bald eagle. Now we're going to start working on our American flag behind him. I'm going to just get my drawing pencil again. And we're going to start with the blue square for the stars. I'm going to go up to about like the middle of the page and then a little bit to the left. I'm going to draw a line that comes down and curves out and then curves back into his body. And then we're going to imagine it going through his wing and coming out at the bottom. And then we're going to do a line that's going to curve over and imagine it going through his wing and coming out on the other side. Now we're going to do a few lines that are coming straight down at an angle for the ripples in the flag. So I'm going to do one starting here. It's going to come straight down. Imagine it going through his wing and continuing down into the side of the page. I'm going to do two more of those. One here. And then one more over here. So that's just kind of the general guideline of our American flag. I'm going to show you guys some techniques to do the stripes. We're going to do our first stripe. We're going to follow this curved line over here, and I'm just going to kind of continue it and then like back down into this line, and then we're gonna follow it same line for like a stripe, just like that. And that was how I do a stripe. And then so if you look at this picture, the stripes are off centered because of the ripples. So like when it gets to a ripple, the stripe jumps down. So it's not, your mind is going to want to just continue the stripe like this, but you're going to jump down and skip a stripe. So I'll show you guys, I'll remind you guys that later. But right now, I'm going to fast forward the stripe drawing just because it's going to take a while. You can pause it. You don't even have to do the flag behind it if you really don't want to, but it's going to be fun. So I'm going to fast forward this part, drawing the stripes. And then I'll show you guys a cool technique after that, how to draw the stars. And then we're going to color it all at the very end. Alright, here we go! Alright, now that I got the stripes drawn, I'm going to show you guys a cool technique on how to do the stars. So, some of y'all may know how to draw like a star, just simple, like that. And that's actually what we're going to do. We do that, and then we're going to get a pen and trace over the outside, and then erase the inside. So I'm going to start by just drawing this all throughout this section, and then I'll come back to you with the pen. Okay, so now that I drew the few stars on the blue, I'm coming here with a pen, and I'm just going to trace over the outside of each star. So I'm going to go over literally just like the outside shape of each star. And I'm going to fast forward this part again because it's going to take me a little bit. Alright, now that I traced the outside of the stars with my pen, I'm going to go back with my eraser on my pencil. I'm just going to go over each star, and it'll leave just a perfect, or almost perfect star. Without us having to do much. That's pretty cool. That's a little bit easier than drawing out each star. Because when you do that first shape, it's easier when you just trace over. And there we go. Okay, so now it's time to start coloring. For the colors, I'm going to be using the red. I'm going to be doing, remember our creases I told you about, we're going to do a red stripe, but then we skip and do the red stripe down here. You can watch the video and then go back, or you can do it with me. I'm going to speed this up because it's going to take me a little while, but I'm going to do the red and white stripes and then the dark blue inside the stars. Let's do this. And there we have it. There's our bald eagle. Hope you guys had lots of fun drawing it. Please join me next time for the next video, and y'all have a happy Independence Day. See you guys next time.